At the height of his power, Napoleon Bonaparte commanded the greatest military machine in Europe, redrawing borders at will. But by the end of his life, that immense empire had crumbled. On May 5, 1821, the former emperor takes his final breath. He dies entirely stripped of his titles, surrounded by captors instead of courtiers. The British had banished him to St. Helena, a desolate volcanic rock in the South Atlantic Ocean, to ensure he could never wield power again. The very next day, inside Longwood House, Napoleon's personal physician, Francesco Antamarchi, prepares to perform an autopsy. He does this under heavy surveillance, with 17 witnesses in the room, including 8 British doctors. Yet, even surrounded by guards and medical professionals, the physical body of the conqueror is highly vulnerable. In this crowded room, an extraordinary historical theft is about to take place. At a specific moment during the tense, grisly procedure, the 8 British doctors lose focus and look away from the operating table. In that brief, unguarded window, Antamarchi takes his surgical scalpel, reaches down, and swiftly removes the fallen emperor's penis. Some historical accounts treat this as a petty hit job. The story goes that Napoleon had recently insulted the local priest's virility, and the priest paid the doctor to take revenge on the autopsy table. Other historians offer a simpler explanation. Antamarchi, like many medical professionals of the era, might have simply wanted to keep a bizarre biological souvenir from a world-famous patient. Whatever the true motive, the organ goes into the doctor's pocket. It leaves the island, transforming from a piece of human anatomy into a smuggled black market relic that will bounce around the world for the next 2 centuries. Antamarchi quietly passes the stolen item off to that same local priest, the man who had administered Napoleon's last rites just hours before his death. The priest then smuggles it back to Corsica. He hides the tissue away among a stash of perfectly mundane family heirlooms, packed in with old letters, silver pieces, and locks of hair. When the priest dies in 1828, the collection passes down through his family. For nearly 100 years, the relic sits quietly in a private inheritance, entirely forgotten by the outside world. It finally surfaces again in 1924, right in the middle of the Roaring Twenties. A prominent American rare book dealer named A.S.W. Rosenbach buys the entire collection. 3 years later, Rosenbach places the item in a small blue velvet box and puts it on public display at the Museum of French Art in New York. The press is merciless, describing the artifact as looking like a leather shoelace or a shriveled eel. The man who once brought European monarchies to their knees is mocked by the American public. Time and the collector's market had reduced a massive historical figure to a literal punchline. Decades pass, and the relic fails to sell at a London auction in 1972. Finally, in 1977, an American urologist named Dr. John K. Latimer buys it for a mere $3,000. Latimer is a serious collector of macabre history. He owns Abraham Lincoln's blood-stained collar, and he previously investigated the medical evidence from the John F. Kennedy assassination. Treating the object as a medical specimen, Latimer subjects it to clinical X-rays to figure out what it is made of. The scans confirm it is an authentic human body part. Over the decades, the tissue has shriveled down to exactly 3.8 centimeters. Satisfied with his clinical findings, Latimer places the relic inside a briefcase and shoves it under his bed. He strictly refuses to let anyone photograph it, stating he wants to preserve the emperor's dignity. The object is safe from the mocking newspaper headlines of the 1920s, but its rescue means it is locked away in the most mundane resting place imaginable. Dr. Latimer eventually passes away, and today his daughter acts as the steward of the collection. She keeps the relic quietly hidden inside her family home in the United States. Its financial value has skyrocketed since the 1970s. She has reportedly turned down offers of up to $100,000 from other private collectors. This diagram shows the state of the relic's verification. While the historical paper trail is well documented, there is a glaring void in this 200-year chain of custody: the complete lack of biological verification. No one has ever performed a modern DNA test on the tissue. DNA testing is a laboratory method that analyzes the unique genetic code found inside cells to identify a specific individual. Without that specific genetic data to compare against Napoleon's known descendants, the physical link between the autopsy room in 1821 and the briefcase under the bed remains entirely unproven. So we are left with a lingering question. Is the withered piece of tissue sitting in that box actually Napoleon Bonaparte? As long as the item remains untested, it exists in a bizarre historical limbo. It is either a grotesque piece of old leather or the ultimate symbol of our relentless obsession with owning a physical piece of the past.